You say you're fine, but I can see right through. You're holding your secrets for way too long. This can't keep going on. With every lie, they keep on hurting you, getting away with everything they do. This can't keep going on. No, we're gonna find them, and I'm gonna fight for you. They better start hiding. We'll be running with the lions, lions. We'll be running with the lions, lions. They can't run, they can't hide. We won't stop until they're down. We'll be running with the lions, lions.
Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. Welcome to another episode of Gloves Off. And I hope you guys have had a great weekend, because at this point, it's almost over. So I am super excited today. I'm always excited. So I know I always say that every week, but every week I get to really talk to somebody new and deep dive into their story. And frankly, I love that. So, of course, I'm excited. And for those of you who have never watched the show, this is Gloves Off. And this is a show really about bold truth, disruption, unapologetic clarity. And it's obviously hosted by yours truly, or I wouldn't be here. And it's a show where strategy meets soul. It's where leaders to come speak without masks. And that's why I love it, because really, who wants to be hiding behind our false masks? That's what we do all day long. And one of the things that I really like to encourage in this show is for people to show up authentically and really, truly share their story. So today I'm going to be interviewing PJ Jones, and she really has a story. So just to give you a little bit of a teaser, she has really had a lot of pain in her personal life, and in it and just wallow in it, or we can rise above it and start to alchemize it, transmute it, and to turn it into something positive. And obviously, that's what PJ did. So I'm going to dive a little more into that later, but let's first introduce our sponsor. Jeremy Meineke is a fitness professional, and I know you've heard me talk about him before. So again, if you're getting ready for the summer and you have no idea how to get into shape and need an accountability partner, need to learn how to eat properly and all of those things, you may want to consider checking Jeremy out. So that is the QR code that will tell you how to reach him. He's doing 15-minute complimentary consultations and phone calls so that you can see if you guys are a good fit. He does work virtually as well. So if it's something that you're interested, certainly give him a shout out. And then also for those of you who are dealing with a small business, dealing with taxes and whatnot, if you don't have an accountant and you're a small business, you may want to consider getting one. And I'll obviously thankful to our sponsors, Elevated CPA. All right, welcome back. So let's talk about our guest today, PJ Jones. So she is a trauma-informed life coach and speaker. And here's the important part. She has lived experience. because there are a lot of coaches out there who really haven't lived the thing that they're coaching about. And I frankly think that that is not the right way to go about things. So she has a mission to help others reclaim their power. She's the founder of Soulful Resilience Journey, which is a platform that offers coaching, workshops, healing retreats for survivors. She's also an author of A Place to Belong, a powerful memoir of survival. She's a podcast host of Insights of the Survivor. I'm actually going to be on her podcast. I don't remember the date right now, but I think it's towards the month. And she is the creator of a Fearless and Flourishing Women's Summit and Rise and Thrive Empowered Voices. So I love this because I love empowered voices. I'm all about empowering people to speak and use their voice. So I think that's really why I resonated so well with PJ. So I think it's time to bring her on and start the conversation. So let's welcome PJ Jones. Hello, PJ. Welcome to Gloves Off.
Hello, how are you today? Thank you so much for having me here on your show. It's such an honor.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. I mean, you really have, well, it's a heartbreaking story, but it's also a very kind of like it's heartbreaking and joyful at the same time. I don't even know how to explain that, just because the heartbreaking part obviously is the difficulty and the struggles that you've been through in your life. And my heart goes out to you for having to deal with all those things.
Thank you.
But the joyful part is that you figured out a way to transmute it. You didn't get buried in it. You didn't let it just stifle your life fire and your life force. You used it to come out of it and to create something for other people. So that's obviously the part of the story that I love. And obviously when we go through pain, I don't think we can understand until we get out of it how to help other people, right? So
yes.
So I'm just excited to really dive into this conversation. So if you don't mind telling us, because I really didn't tell everybody what you went through, I wanted them to hear it from you. Can you give us a little bit about what you experienced in your younger years and, how it affected you?
Okay, great. Well, it didn't start with me. It started with my mom. My mom, she actually was 8 years old when my dad, who was 46 years older than her, began to molest her, rape her. Basically, she was groomed to be his property by my grandmother, who it is a story. My grandmother was his mistress, and she allowed him to have his way with her. My mother. My father was a pastor at the church, so it was kind of hidden in plain sight. My grandmother was a member. My mother was a member. She had to live basically her entire life forced to do whatever it was that he wanted her to do. So she was 18. No, she was 20 when she had me. But by the time she had me, she was 11 when she had her first son by him and 13 with her second. She gave birth to them by term, but they told her that the babies had passed. So she's been struggling with not believing that her babies actually passed. She was 18 when she had my older sister and 20 when she had me. Had more control over who was allowed in the delivery room, so she was able to see that, they weren't going to you're not going to just take my babies this time. So she kept us. So at a young age, I don't know if this was on purpose, but when I was about 2 or 3 days old, someone put something in my bottle that made me sick. I died 3 times. So the first 10 months of my life, I had to fight to live. And my mom basically had to sit in the hospital with me alone while I was in there basically dying. They thought that I was going to die, actually. And I just, they did everything that they could. I have scars on my neck, on my wrist from tubes being down my throat, down my neck and in my hands. And when they were getting ready to pull the plug, I just kind of made a miraculous. We don't know what happened. My mom could not tell you what happened. They just, hey, they say goodbye to her. And next thing you know, here I am today. So growing up was not the best. I was always singled out. I didn't get the physical abuse until after my father passed, because again, he was kind of this big big figure in our community because he was the pastor of a church. He had a lot of power, a lot of control. And unknowns to me, I was his daughter. I knew I had to live with him. He never treated me badly. He never molested me. He was actually my savior. He kept me safe. That's funny, right? I never knew this man was a monster until after he died. And I found out he was my father maybe 2 years before he passed away, which made it started to make sense. Okay, that's why we had to live with him. That's why we're going out of town with him and visiting his family, because me and my sister, like, why do we have to go with the pastor and no one else does? So when we found out, that made a lot of sense to us. And then he passed away when I was 11. That's when the tables turned for me. I mean, because I was always being picked on by my cousins. I was always singled out. I was always like, my cousin broke my ribs when I was 5, and my family basically was like, you better shut up. You better not cry. You know, they never really kept me safe, but they didn't. The abuse wasn't outright blunt until after my dad passed away. When my dad passed away, my mom started to drink heavily. And my mom's a very light complected woman. She's Creole. Real bright complected. My dad's Haitian, so I look a lot like him. She says I have a lot of his mannerisms, so it's like whatever she wanted to do to him for hurting her, she did that to me. That's when the abuse started. The physical abuse. She started to really just, make me suffer for whatever it was that he'd done to her. Nothing I did was perfect. I was a good student. Played multiple instruments, was in choir, band, orchestra, string ensemble, wind ensemble. I was in ROTC. I was good. I had the grades. I was everything that I was supposed to be, but it wasn't enough for her. And I had to go to church 80 hours a week, because anybody who's grew up in church knows you're in church every day. Every day. So I did everything that I was told, but she had something against me. She tells me I'm her favorite child, honestly.
Oh my goodness. So she's still alive?
She is still alive. I do not speak with her because she still drinks. She's still verbal. She does not physically abuse me anymore, but she will definitely verbally abuse me if I allow her to. So I had to establish a boundary, unfortunately, and no, I do not speak to her.
Okay.
I'll say something on her birthday. Every blue moon, I'll give her a chance to show me that maybe she's changed, but shortly into the conversation, it's like back on block.
Okay. Well, I think that brings up a couple of very noteworthy points or topics of conversation. So, number one, it's really amazing how that started with your mother, and nothing really happened to you until after your father passed. And then it's interesting how it's not, this is common, I think, where people in certain positions get away with certain things that other people wouldn't. So there's that. And then lastly, it's when she clearly had the anger towards him, but then took it out on you because she felt more powerful against you versus him. She didn't have her power towards him, so she had more power to you. And then she decided to utilize that power in a negative way. And then the last thing I want to say about that is that, there's so many people out there who believe that blood is blood and family is family. And I'm in your camp. I do not believe that verbally abusive or abusive family members belong in my life. They're family members I don't talk to either for that same reason. They're not kind, they're not decent. And you know what? It is what it is. So, kudos to you for deciding to put the boundary in place and not speak to her, because you know what? Our mental health is important, and you've gone through your own trauma. So, that is just, what an incredible story. I mean, it's, that was just jam-packed with a lot of information in just a few minutes. I was like feeling so many things. So then what happened after that? I mean, your mom started to abuse you, and what did she do?
Unfortunately, it doesn't get any better from there. I started to run away from home because I'm thinking, okay, I have to, because like you say, family has a way of making you feel you're responsible for someone. So, that's just your mom, so none of my aunts would help me. None of my uncles would help me. So I ended up running away a lot. I ended up in the streets. In the streets, I was sexually assaulted multiple times. Once by five individuals at the same time when I was 14. All of these things happened to me as a child. I was 14 when I started to run away from home. I did try to tell my mom when I lost my virginity, that I was raped. She accused me. She beat me. So I ran away again. And during those times, I ended up having to defend myself, protect myself any way possible. So I made mistakes that I wasn't proud of. I fought a lot. I had to join the gang thinking that it was going to keep me safe, which it didn't. But at the time, I felt like it was safe because I at least had somewhere to go. I fought a lot because I had a lot of anger in me. And when someone I never started a fight. I was always the smile you see is a smile I've worn my entire life. But if someone approached me, I was very, very, very quick to just snap because I had so much anger in me because I was being abused at home. And I'm like, yeah, I let my mom beat me. You're not going to beat me. Mm-hmm. So I did fight a lot. But I stayed in school. No matter what, I had a goal. I'm going to use one of these music, ROTC, academic. I'm getting a scholarship. I'm going to go to Spelman College. That was my goal, to go to Spelman College because I wanted to go to an HBCU. I wanted to have an experience. I wanted to dive into my culture. I wanted to be I wanted to step, do all of that stuff. So no matter what, I went to school every day, beat up, scratched up, scarred up, raped, beat, hair snatched out. I went to school, so I had to get out of that house. And so I unfortunately met my ex-husband, who was 7 years older than me. He was 23 or 24. I don't remember. I was 16. And he kind of trapped me. He basically claimed me because I didn't like him. He claimed me like, you belong to me now. He tried to traffic me, but because I was so strong-willed, I'm like, no, but that just caused him to beat me even harder, sodomize me, to do things to my body that no child should have to go through, which I had already gone through because I was being sexually assaulted even before he came around. And he got me pregnant when I was 17 years old. And my family, because they are such a church family, even though they have their dirty little secrets, was like, we won't have any bastards in this family. You're going to marry him. And I'm just like, I don't want to marry this man. He was a horrible person. And that's what trapped me. I ended up trapped in a 12-year relationship, having 3 children with a man who tortured me in every way possible. He slit my throat. He tried to shoot me, but the gun went into the bathtub. I
can't even imagine what that was like, living in fear like that every day of your life. And from when you were small to 12 years in a horrible relationship. I mean, it just goes to show you what most of us just take for granted, about just feeling safe, just feeling safe. And, all of us have parents that probably weren't perfect. And that's the reality. No parent is perfect. But, some parents obviously do a better job of helping their children feel safe and others don't, So my heart goes out to you. I mean, I feel a little nauseous now, to be honest with you. Hearing the story, I'm like, I don't know how you can say it. I mean, and that's clearly how you've transmuted it, because you can talk about it without, all the emotions. But wow, I mean, that's a lot.
Oh no, the emotions, but I've learned throughout this journey to take my power back and understand that those things happened to me. They did not define me. That's kind of where I started. Right. That's what helped me. That's what helps me. But no, I definitely still have flashbacks. Definitely still have bad days. Definitely still cry. I still have triggers. Like, there are things me and my current husband deal with right now because he'll say something and I'll snap. Like, don't say that to me. Don't walk around me when you're mad. Don't stand behind me. So I still I'm working. I'm a lot farther now than I was just even a few years ago. But no, it's every day and every day.
I don't think it ever ends, right? I mean, it's always a part of you. There's always going to be something that reminds you of something. Yes. And, but is your husband patient with you, at least, and understanding what?
He was confused at first. So no, in the beginning, it took us. We had to go to therapy, because he didn't understand. He's like, because he's seen things on TV, he's heard stories, but to actually know someone who's he tells me all the time, your life is a movie. He'll hear my mom. He's like, it took him having to hear my mom cuss me out and talk to me the way she talks to me. And he's just kind of confused because, all of us, like you say, no parent is perfect. I'm sure he's gotten yelled at by his mom. I'm not perfect. He'll hear me fussing at my kid, like, get out of my room, but to hear a mom call her daughter a bitch, you stupid bitch, just because I'm like, Mom, I don't want to talk to you. You've been drinking. And now I'm getting cussed out. He's just sitting here like, you should be able to hang up the phone if you want to hang up the phone. So it took him years of learning, and honestly, he's still also learning. He's challenging himself every day to grow and learn. He actually ended up having to follow someone on YouTube. It was a doctor who specializes in trauma, to learn ways to deal with me, because I took a lot of classes in mental health, but it's different when you're trying to help someone in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Because you take it personally. So he does his own homework. Again, we've had our bumps in the road. This definitely has not. It's not violent. It's just confusing to both of us, because I'm trying to navigate having an actual relationship that I can actually learn how to let my guards down with, and he's trying to navigate being in a relationship with someone who has so much trauma. So it's
But
really
he's
hard.
trying, and you're trying, and I think that's beautiful. Listen, we don't show up with, I mean, we all have our traumas. I mean, yours are
Yes.
particularly severe, I definitely, but
Yes.
we all have traumas with everything. And in relationships actually bring all of those traumas, unfortunately, to the surface, because you're vulnerable and you're getting close to that person. But I think it's great that he's trying, and he's, you know,
Yes.
at least trying to learn more about it, because it isn't easy when it's something you don't
No.
really, I mean, I think you can kind of understand, but not
Yes.
not
Yes.
really, until you live with somebody who's experienced that.
Exactly.
I have a friend of mine actually was saying the same thing to me. She had a very abusive marriage, and during that time, they made everything look outwardly like everything was fine. But then later, after they got divorced, she came out with what was really happening in that marriage. And then she met somebody that had kind of gone through some abuse that's similar. So they actually learned to understand each other, I think, a lot quicker, because
Yes.
they had, I don't know if it was the same exact kind of trauma, but I think it was similar enough that they both understand that each other has triggers, and so they've learned how to deal with it. But I think if it's one person who's had a lot of trauma and maybe the other person hasn't had any, I think it's going to be a lot harder to understand.
Yeah, it was really hard, because again, he's had to see so much, because when he met me, I had been separated from my ex-husband for about 6 years. So I built this wall. To kind of show everyone I'm not weak, because I was proud of myself that didn't break me, because again, it was 12 years of torture, sodomy, like the things that this man has done. He done to me, kidnapped my children, stalking me after I even left him.
So what
He was
happened to
not a good
him?
person.
Is he in jail?
For like 2 weeks, he went to jail. Well, he did go to jail. What ended up happening was I've been trying to leave him off and on. Like, I left the state so many times, but my mom told him where I was once. It was like, why would you do that? So, when I went back to California, because he'll come, you're here, I'm here. So I'm like, I came here to get away from you, so I'll move back home. So I moved back home, and he ran me over with a car. At the time, I smoked cigarettes. And I have a challenge. Actually, I spoke about this on my 365-day challenge on my channel, because I'm challenging myself to kind of help everybody see how I healed from these stories. And that was my story of him hitting me with a car. I bought him a car, and I have my own car, because if I have something, he has to have it too. He doesn't work, he doesn't cook, he doesn't clean, but if I have it, he has to have it. So I had my car, I bought him a car. I smoked the last cigarette, because again, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke any type of marijuana, I didn't drink, I just had my cigarette. So at one point, I was smoking through them. I smoked the last one, and he went crazy. So I went to go to the store to buy a pack of cigarettes, because I'm like, I bought them. So I'm not going to argue with you. I'm done. Let me just go to the store. He decides to get mad because I'm not responding to him, and he runs out of the house, and he backs up into me in my car. And then he gets out of that car. As I'm getting up, he gets in the other car, backs into me again, and again, until my neighbor comes out, this old Hispanic woman. I love her so much. I wish I haven't talked to her in like a long time. I feel kind of guilty, but she's screaming at him to stop, because she saw him hitting me with the car, and she heard the argument. She heard through the walls. We had a duplex. So she hears him beating me through the walls. So she sees it. She's like, oh, no. So she calls the police, and he goes to jail. He gets sentenced 30 days. He only has to do 2 weeks. So in that 2 weeks, I've met a friend of mine who lives in Anchorage, Alaska. She's like, come. So I'm like, I'm out of here. So I take my children. I move to Anchorage. I don't tell my mom at this point.
Good.
But my friend, meets him on Facebook after he gets out of jail. And then she's like, he's not that bad. She pays for him to come up there. She pays for him to come up. So I get a knock on my door after 3 months of peace. I'm like, yes, 3 months of peace. I get a knock on my door. He's at my house. I'm just like, and she's like, well, I brought him surprise, because my kids, they didn't realize that they knew he was a bad person. He never beat them. He just did it in front of them, or I would try to shield them from it. So they didn't realize, they thought that was normal. So of course they're like, my daughter's like, I miss my dad. I miss my dad. So she's like, well, she missed her dad. So I thought I would do something for the kids. And I'm just like, no.
Oh my God.
No. So it was just like, oh my God. So, but that only lasted 8 months though, because he tried to kill me and my kids. He tried to run us off the road in the middle of the winter. I got him arrested. He went to jail. I got a hold of his parole officer, and I helped his parole officer get him violated because he wasn't supposed to be leaving. He was not supposed to be out of the state of California. So I helped him get violated. I kind of set him up because they let him out because they didn't have anything much to hold him on. So they let him out. And maybe a week or two later, the bounty hunters took him back to California. And that's when he actually did about 2 years in jail.
Well, I still don't think that was enough. Anyway.
It was not enough. It was not enough. No.
Anyway, that's a whole different story. So I don't even know how a human being starts to process this. Because really, I don't even know if you can process it if you're in it. I can't even imagine. So I imagine that you have to start having some sense of some peace, right? Which you never got. You got a little taste of it for 3 months before your friend decided to,
help.
So when did you finally have a moment to recalibrate and process all of this?
Not close. Almost. Let me think. So for about 6 years, I didn't really care enough about myself to understand what my friend had done. So I had a very negative support system around me. So for 6 years, I go to work, I take care of my kids, I go camping, hiking, fishing, anything you do in Alaska to make sure my kids were safe, go to church. But on the weekends, I'm partying. I start drinking. I start doing unhealthy things because they're putting in my head, you've been locked away. Your mom did this. This friend of mine had known me since I was in middle school. So she knew the abuse that I was going through with my mom. And you've been locked away since middle school. You've been going through this since I've known you and your ex-husband. So let's just have fun. So I started to be unsafe, started having sex, drinking, doing things that I felt like I couldn't do as a teenager because I was being abused or I was being this or I was being that. And that was my choice to destroy my own body. I did not have that positive support system to say, you need to get therapy for you and your children. I thought, okay, I go to church, so that's fine. It was not fine. It was really not fine because now I'm causing my own trauma because I don't understand how to be okay because I wasn't processing it. Then something happened. My mom ended up lying to me, telling me I'm dying. And I feel like I suffered from Stockholm Syndrome a lot. I moved back to California to help my mom. Well, everybody's going to die one day, dear. I'm like, but no, you told me you were dying now. I quit my good job. I gave up my nice apartment, gave up my good car to move back to California from Alaska to help you. And you're lying. So, I, to this day, think that she set it up with my ex-husband because right after I got there, he got out of jail for me helping the parole officer violate him. I was in Alaska for a few years. And then like a month after I got there, he got out of jail. And it's just like, okay. So I stopped talking to her again. And that's when she started back drinking because she stopped drinking for a while. She started back drinking. And I said, okay, no more. I'm done. I'm going to try to get out of here. Told my kids, we're going to go back to Alaska because this was a setup, But during that time, my ex-husband tried to set my house on fire.
Oh my God, it just doesn't end.
Yeah, no, so it doesn't. It was like, cause he's stalking me. Cause at this point now I'm like, I haven't been with you for years. I'm over the relationship at this point. You have no control over me, but we were still legally married. I was afraid to get a divorce because of my biblical background. You've in church. And so I'm like, okay, if I stay married to him, they'll just shut up, So I stayed married. But he was like, well, you're still my wife. So I'm like, no, I would never let him have that control over me again. And it drove him crazy. So I would go outside. I'm standing on my neighbor's roof, looking in my yard. I'll hear my lawnmower in my backyard. He's waving at me through the window. So I'm starting to call the police because the state of California put a restraining order on him so that he couldn't come near me, but he's leaving every time. So finally he goes crazy and he's like, "You're going to take me back." I'm just like, "No, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm dating someone else at this point now." So he pours gasoline around my house. And I have a roommate with me, her and her children, and she's like, "I'm calling the police." So we call the police and they come over. This is the first time they've ever actually did anything. So they smelled the gasoline and they went and picked him up and took him to jail. And that was another 2 years that he got to go to jail. But this time I'm like, I need to slow down. Something is not, I'm still going through too much. So I started to slow down. I moved back to Alaska. Things started to come together. I'm just focusing on working. I still go out a little bit. It was a process.
Yeah.
But it's not every weekend, so I'm still taking care of my children, go to Alaska, do what I have to do. But then I don't remember what happened. I ended up having to move back to California last time. And again, this last time was fine because by then I'm divorced. I don't care what anyone says. I'm filing for a divorce. So I divorced my ex-husband. I'm like, "You're trying to kill me. You're trying to kill my kids." And like, that was the third time he tried to kill my kids.
Yeah.
That was the third time he tried to kill my kids. So I was like, I can't. So I divorced him to keep me safe. So because when you're married, there's only so much that a police officer can do if you're legally married to someone. So I'm
right. Okay. So then you have a little more recourse once you're divorced.
You're divorced. So I get my divorce because in Alaska, I ended up working and becoming a paralegal. So I learned a little for a lawyer who was in family law. So I learned a lot. So I said, okay, these are the things that I need to do to keep myself safe. So I filed for divorce. I got my divorce. It was fairly easy. I'm in a couple of months. My divorce was final.
Okay.
And everything, I have custody of my children. I have physical custody of the children and like visitations and everything. And so I ended up moving back to California and I'm single, Of course he tries, but it's every time he comes, it's like, no, I fought him back. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to lie. He comes over trying to fight me. So I'm like, okay, I can fight. I just chose to let you fight me all those years because I thought I loved you, but I don't love you. And if you think you're going to come over and abuse me, I fought him. I beat him up and he called the police on me.
Oh my God. Wow. So
he called the police on me.
So what was the final straw where you decided to get your life back together? So what was the thing that just said, you know what, enough is enough. I know what's happened to me. Obviously it stinks and it's been terrible, but I have a choice to live a different life. When was that turning point for you?
My kids, they were in middle school. My daughter was in middle school. My two younger children were in middle school. My son was in high school. And I'm looking at them and I'm beating college into their head. You guys need to do this. And I'm stopping. I'm like, I had a dream to go to college one day. I need to stop and practice what I preach because I had to sneak behind his back to finish high school because I was 16 when I met him. He wouldn't let me go to school. I had to sneak to get my GED when I was 22 or 23 years old. So I'm like, I have a GED at the very least. I can go to college. And at that point, college is online. I'm like, okay, great. So I started going to school online. And you go to school, when you're in college and supporting children and you're trying to work, there's no room for partying because you get off work, you have they think this online school is that easy. It's really not. It's really, really not. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to focus on my kids. And then I ended up, I really don't like California. The laws there I don't feel safe there. My ex-husband was there. My friend who was not my friend, who I was still talking to, which I should have cut off, she convinced me to move back to Alaska the last time. I moved back to Alaska with my children, and that's where I met my current husband. So I at that point, I'm not going to the club anymore. I'm just going to school. I have like 3 jobs, and I'm at home with the kids. So I'm going to say for about a year, 2 years, I'm just working, going to school, taking care of my kids, and I'm dating him. I mean, I was living my life. I wasn't necessarily dating him. I'm seeing guys, I'm seeing girls, I'm seeing whoever I want to see, but it's not in an unhealthy situation. It's like, I'm going to get to know you. Go away. I was doing things in a lot more healthy way. And I kind of slowed down my relationship with those unhealthy people. So it was more of a process.
So you started to choose yourself more often and started to, really put the right things in front of you little by little and just change what was important to you. And, but still, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, it still doesn't sound like you even had a minute to process what was going on.
No.
from how I'm listening to this and what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling is that you literally, since the time you were 11? Is that when you said that your father passed
My father
away?
passed.
You have been dealing with trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And then when you maybe had a little bit of no trauma, you were still in survival mode, because then
Yes.
you had to figure out how to put your life back together, take care of your kids, get an education, better your life, and all of those things. So, I mean, that's a lot. It really is a lot.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, it
is.
is.
So then finally, when does things start turning around after you got done with school, or?
Well, I was in Alaska for about 2 years, and I went to visit with me and my partner. We were in St. Louis visiting his family, and my son was killed. My son was shot and killed in 2017. Right. So I was like, no, not there yet. 2017, my son, he was hanging out with some friends. He was getting ready to come to St. Louis with us because we were trying to see if we wanted to stay in Alaska, because Alaska wasn't what it used to be. It was a lot dangerous. People were dying every day. The kids were getting killed. So it's like, maybe we should come here, and see what our opportunities are here. So my son, he was 19. He was like, well, I'm going to come out there with you guys, Mom. So we bought his ticket to come. That he was supposed to get on that plane the next day. And 1 a.m, his fiance calls me. His fiance's mom, she calls me and tells me, hey, your son was shot. We don't know. There's 2 little boys that were shot. They were fighting because the guy and his friend, my son's friend, they were fighting. And, well, they weren't fighting. The guy, my son was trying to defend his friend. I don't really know how it ended. And the guy was fighting my son. He was 22. My son was 19. But my son is a boxer. I put my kids in boxing to kind of keep them. So he beat the boy up, long story short, in front of a couple of girls, and the guy pulled out a gun and he shot my son and the other little boy. He shot my son and died the next morning. The other little boy was shot in the lungs. He was in a critical condition for a few months, but he finally came out of it. And the same friend that helped me move to Alaska, it was the one that asked me to go to St. Louis to visit with her, because, again, she's with my current husband's brother, and that's where they're from. That's their hometown. Okay. So I was out there visiting her, and he was out there visiting with his family. I didn't realize at the time that my friend was saying a lot of bad things about me behind my back to his family. So they didn't really necessarily like me, even though they never met me. And so when my son passed away, I had no support. I was there by myself. They like telling him, you need to leave her. She has too much baggage. I went to California to visit my family, and the church kind of put together funds for me to have a funeral for my son. But my first husband stole all the money. They gave the money to his mom, and his mom gave it to him. And I don't even know how much they raised, but I don't even care. It's gone. When I found out that he had it, I'm just like, that's gone. He's not giving me a penny. So I to say I didn't get upset about it would be a lie. But I mean, it went over so fast. Like, I already know.
At that point, you were probably used to all these terrible things that he did, so just nothing surprised you anymore.
It didn't.
Which is sad.
I was more surprised. Like, you guys knew he was this way. Why would you give it to him? His mom's know better. So, you know. But I mean, I'm at a point where I'm accepting of the fact that I don't really care. He never had a funeral. Okay, that's fine. I'll do something for him one day. But he's at peace. So this is keep the money. That's your consequences, your karma, whatever's going to come back on you.
Right.
I don't want to deal with it. So when I ended up going back to St. Louis, because I was thinking about even staying home. I wanted to be home with my family. But when I'm home, I'm having to fight with this man, and I'm looking at my partner. I'm just like, he's going to go to jail if we stay here. So I said, no, let's just go back. We went back to St. Louis, and that's when things started to. My mom, of course, she's an alcoholic. Every time I talk to her, you killed my son. You killed your son. You killed your son. You abandoned him. You killed your son. That's what she says to me to this day. That's why I don't talk to her, because she'll get drunk and she'll tell me today, you killed your son.
So I just, one thing I do want to focus on, I'm realizing we're getting kind of low on time.
Oh, sorry.
No. I just want to talk about, actually, because I mean, I feel like you have so much. You could probably talk 2 hours, but one thing I do want to focus on is like how you really made that transition and like all these new things that you're doing to help people with trauma, so I want to really have some time to really dive into that because I think it's
Okay.
really important and such an important part of the healing aspect of your story.
Yes, it is. It was when I lost my son.
Okay.
I got his death certificate and I realized I had nobody. Nobody. I'm homeless. I'm in St. Louis with 2 children and I had nobody, not one person to help me. And I said, you know what? I can't do this. I can't keep hoping that someone else is going to be responsible for my healing. So that's when I started my healing journey. Because at that time I dropped out of college and everything. So I went back to college. I went to therapy. I went to therapy after therapy. I tried multiple therapists up to the point where I even tried to kill myself, because I couldn't take the depression that I was going through anymore. And I started to alternative methods of healing, holistic. A neuro-linguistic programming was my best friend because I learned how to reframe every negative into a positive. And that was something that honestly, I've been on this healing journey for about 3 years. 2.5 to 3 years. It's not something that happened recently. As you can see, I've, like you say, trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And you're right. I could talk for probably another 2 more hours about more stuff, but
100%, 100%. But that's the thing. I mean, no matter where you are in your journey, what it sounds like to me is that you are making as much progress as you possibly can. I mean, life hasn't really handed you the easiest of circumstances to do a lot. So as I was reading your bio, you've still managed to do quite a lot despite all these traumas that you face. So I have to say, kudos to you for being able to do
Thank
that
you.
because
Thank
most
you so
people
much.
would just drown in this kind of trauma, they
Yes.
really would. And there would be nothing, And so somewhere in there, you found the courage to just get back up and no, you're not healed 100% yet, but who really is? There's always
Right.
healing. And I think with the
Right.
kind of trauma that you've gone through, it may take you your whole life. Who knows? I don't know.
Yes. And I'm okay with that.
It just is a process. And you know what I think is you've already started to do a lot of different things. So maybe let's talk about your book first. Let's talk about your book.
Okay.
So is it more outlining your story of like the things that you've had to deal with and endure?
Yes. Well, it basically talks about my life all the way up until I moved to Alaska, but it's more detailed. It kind of goes. It's very graphic. It goes into actual incidents, things that I've actually had to live through, the details, the words, the actual actions that I had to go through.
And was it a catharsis? Was it a catharsis for you writing it? Sometimes there's healing in writing it. Did you feel that?
Very much. That was me taking my power back. And actually, that's only one of 3 books because I have 3. As you can see, the story is very long, so I had to break it down into 3 books. I'm working on my second one now, but it's I was afraid. But once I finished that last chapter, that was that last sentence, I felt like I got so much relief.
It's interesting because I don't know that I realized how much that could be that way because I felt the same way after writing my book. After I wrote about all this, I was like, oh, I feel so much better just putting it all out there and writing about it and everything. So I'm glad that it did the same thing for you. And then you also have your podcast, which I want to talk about as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Insights of a Survivor. I started that actually because I was I had a YouTube channel that was just basically AI generated everything. But someone was like, you should start a podcast. Are you looking for guests? And it kind of forced me to do it. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, I am. So over a weekend, I said, I'm going to start Insights of a Survivor. And I'm going to allow people to use this to share their story because I know how I'm learning how healing it is to hear that someone else has gone through something similar, that it's not just me. So I didn't feel so alone. And then I didn't understand how healing it is to actually share my story because I felt like I'm taking my power because I felt silence for so long. So my podcast is a safe space for people to come on to every other week I have a guest. Once every 2 weeks, I have a guest who'll come on there, share their story. And it's not just about abuse. To me, trauma is trauma, medical trauma. You can say, I was diagnosed with this or that, and I overcame that. But the trauma that you had to deal with in that process, that's trauma. I've had someone on my show who's been shot by a drive-by, innocent bystander shot. So to me, I just want to give people a platform to be able to resonate with an audience who's looking for somewhere to go when they feel like they have nowhere. So that's what my podcast is about, and to let them know, no matter how bad it gets, there is always a place for you to heal. It's hard, but it's possible.
Yeah, because it could feel overwhelming, and it could feel like you're never going to heal, and like you're never going to feel okay. And it's important for people to see what the other side looks like. I mean, of course, none of it's easy, and it takes a lot of work, but it's nice to be able to show people that it can be done.
Exactly. And that's basically the point. It's not to sugarcoat, like with the gloves off. I love that, because gloves off, you're going to take those gloves off, you're going to take some punches. Those punches are not going to kill you, but they're going to hurt. They're going to hurt. And what you got to do is you got to wipe that blood off your face, and you have to keep going. That's kind of what my podcast is about. And it's on my YouTube channel, Empower Voices, Finding Strength in Survivors. Yeah. Because we are all strong together. And survivors, again, I don't define trauma as one thing. I define trauma as all. And as a group of survivors, we're uplifting.
We all are survivors in one way or the other.
Yes,
I think there's I don't know that there's a single human being in this world who hasn't gone through some sort of traumatic thing.
Exactly.
I'm guessing. I mean, I haven't found one yet, but,
not one.
But I can see, I think we all have had our traumas. They're all different traumas, but we all experience them. And yes, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned gloves off. Gloves off came about because I started doing martial arts after my divorce. And I just had rage built up inside me. I was angry about a lot of things. I didn't even know what I was angry about sometimes. I was just angry about things. So I decided that I started to go do a kickboxing. And that's when I went right from kickboxing into Krav Maga and then more martial arts. And
nice.
That's why the show is called Gloves Off, because it's kind of a double entendre, because like when I put my gloves on, I'm usually, fighting and, or sparring or doing martial arts. But I took my surgical gloves off. And then it's also means like you take your gloves off, like you take your masks off. So I just felt like it was the perfect name for the show. So.
I love it. I really love it. I can't wait. So you guys, she's going to be on my show. I think it's the 25th.
I think it was 25th.
Last Friday. I was supposed to be on your show on the 27th. So 2 days before that. So I believe it was the 25th.
Okay. Well, I have it on my calendar. I just couldn't remember when it was. So
I'm excited.
It'll be exciting to be on there with you. So your second book, are you already working on it? Do you know?
I'm working on it now.
Okay. Awesome.
My hope is to have it released by the end of this year, because like you said, I'm doing so much. I have 2 summits coming up, one for grieving parents in July and one for mental health for minorities and BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, mental health awareness for those. So I'm doing 2 summits for that as well.
That's amazing.
I want to get the word out.
I'm going to put your link here, your link tree, because you have so many different things. So
yes.
For all of those of you who are watching, I know we've talked about different things that PJ's up to. And, so I put the link tree up here. So on that link tree, you can find everything. It's got her book. And I'm sure when the new book comes out, that will be on there.
Yes.
The podcast I know is on there. I saw the summits are on there too. So, everybody out there, if you could show her your support, and, if you know people that are struggling with similar things that would like to attend her summit, or,
please.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really great thing you're doing.
Thank you so much.
I love that you're so honest about what's happened to you. I don't know how you can even talk about it with a smile on your face, but somehow you can. And I really commend you for that, because I think, I don't know. But it just shows, I think that happens when you've actually, none of us have alchemized it 100% probably. But what I'm saying is that I think this is what starts to happen when you've started to turn it around,
Yes.
And then I think for you, it almost seems like, I'm just going to say this because I think it's true. I think for you, once you found a purpose, it made it all better.
Yes, it did.
Not that it made it really better, but I'm just saying that it gave you a purpose in life. And then if you hadn't gone through it, you really couldn't help people through it. You really couldn't. And because you've gone through it, you can. And I think when we have purpose, we feel so much different than when we're just doing a job. I think at this point, if you're just working a job, maybe you'd feel very unsatisfied. I'm sure you would.
I was very unsatisfied. I've had jobs working for the federal government, for the state, CPS, APS. It was I need to do this. This is my purpose. And you're very right.
Yeah, because
You're
I
very
know
right.
everything changed for me too. I mean, the things that I've been through, as soon as I started to be able to put them into something that helps other people, I really don't feel so. I mean, I'm not thrilled about some of the things I had to deal with, but you know what? I had to deal with it, and it is okay. And then, really, nothing I dealt with was anything like what you dealt with. So right there, I'm like, yeah, whatever I went through is not bad. I was like,
Well,
it felt bad to me.
of course, exactly, and that's the trauma's trauma. That's where I get because I've heard that so many times. Like, oh my God, hearing your story, I'm like, but your trauma was still real to you, and it still affected you in the way it affected you. So, trauma's trauma.
I know, it's so true. But I love this. So when is the summit? When is the summit?
The first summit is for the mental health BIPOC and mental health and minority mental health awareness. It's going to be July 18th and 19th, and then that following weekend, that following Saturday and Friday and Saturday is when the healing and grief for the parents who are suffering from child loss. That's when that one is going to be. I have to look at my calendar, but I believe it's the 25th and the 26th.
That's fine. Well, at least we have a roundabout date, and guys,
it'll be on my link tree.
It'll be on the link tree, so just check it out. And then, are these in person or online?
They're virtual and they're free to the public.
Which is so great. Oh my God, guys, if anybody knows anybody who has been dealing with this kind of trauma, please send them there, because this is amazing that you're putting this kind of stuff together. Because not only do the people who have been through these kind of things and are going through it currently, they need support. And sometimes it's easier almost to find the support online because it feels less threatening than going to somebody in person. It can certainly be a great start for people to start looking at things and just start to have a sense of community and feel a sense of support. So it's just so amazing that you're doing this. I love it. I really, truly love it.
Thank you so much.
I really want to congratulate you for, listen, I don't know if, I'm sure other people have said this, but it doesn't matter. I want to say it myself. Number one, I want to say that I'm truly and deeply sorry for all these things that you had to endure in your life. I really want to see your ex-husband, it's sad that he was able to do those things over and over again. That bothers me. I'm so sorry about the loss of your son. I mean, that had to have been probably worse than maybe anything else you dealt with, I would say. I mean, I know you've dealt with a lot, but that, I think, is just, for a mother to have to endure that is just so gut-wrenching. But yet, you still found the strength to just make peace with it to the best of your ability and to put something positive in place to help other people. So I am just really, I'm in awe of what you've been able to do with what you've been through.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I am so grateful to you for, even taking the time to meet with me. So I appreciate you. And I'm so excited to have you on my show on we're going to say the 25th. It's on. Look on my link tree, you guys. It'll be on there.
Yeah, I don't even know. I have it on my calendar is all I know. But it has really been a pleasure. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for the way that you've shared everything. And I'm very much looking forward to being on your show. And guys, if you know anybody that could benefit from what PJ's doing out there, please send them to her link tree. Well, thank you. You have a great evening. And thank you so much for joining us on Gloves Off.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I mean, enjoy, I don't even know if it's the right word, because she's really dealt with a lot. So, but I think my heart really goes out to her, and I just feel like a sense of really knowing her. I guess that's the best way I can put it right now. But anyway, she's doing wonderful things, and I love that. So I'm excited that next week we're going to be also talking about mental health. I'm actually going to be interviewing Dustin Dean and Mick Myers, and they have a really new take on mental health. They're calling it NeuroThrive. So it's really not about just mental health. It's really about teaching resilience, and it's really kind of a cool concept, and I think you guys are going to like it. So don't forget to tune in next week. That's going to be on Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all of you fathers out there. And then also on another note, as you guys know, I am an aesthetic. I consult with aesthetic providers for any aesthetic providers who are watching this show out there, I am going to be hosting this boot camp. It's the Aesthetic Profit Accelerator Boot Camp. So that's going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico in August. So August 7th through 10th. Mine is actually going to be live, not virtual. So if you know anybody who could benefit from this, please send them to that website. So anyway, I hope you guys have a fabulous, fabulous evening. And then we will see you for next Sunday for another episode of Gloves Off. Bye for now.